I'm Juliette Foster, and all week we've been rounding up the latest news and views from the World Economic Forum, and today I am finishing the week as I started it by chatting to PwC's Global Chairman Bob Moritz, who I'm delighted to say now joins me. A very good morning to you, Bob.
Good morning to you as well.
Now look, there have been plenty of highlights in what's been an extraordinary week, but for you, what are the things that really stand out?
There's two things that stand out. One is, even though I think a lot of people came into this week with a degree of pessimism, they ended up leaving, I think, with a little bit more optimism, which I think is a good thing as they go back with a bit of confidence to actually do something as opposed to just talk about something. Number two, I would say, was actually the ability to actually bring technology, artificial intelligence into how do we actually solve these kind of problems. Inclusive lending, for example, is a great example. Healthcare is another example. So it was really exciting to see the world of opportunities, and hopefully we can scale these to have the benefit in society.
I'm glad you talked about the confidence factor, because you're absolutely right. Of course, that was one of the findings that emerged from the survey, this drop in confidence. And of course, you've been talking to a lot of business leaders and politicians and various others. So what was the mood like at the very beginning? Did it reflect that finding?
So the mood coming out of the survey, as we know, was actually a little bit more pessimistic than last year, with a dramatic increase amount of the downside risk. What's interesting, I think, in the conversations with the CEOs, they said, are we actually reading the headline news too much and not actually focusing on the facts and the underlying data that's showing what is, in fact, the opportunities that exist for us and how do we execute against that? So it's really now about the execution in a difficult world.
So in your opinion, is there enough room for optimism?
There is. In every one of these challenges are opportunities. And it comes back to, do I have the right team, the right leadership, the right vision, then the right strategy and the details in terms of what I need to do, and can I execute on that? That's really the key here as you think about not only what governments need to do, but what corporates need to do.
And one of the other talking points which emerged was globalization 4.0. So do you think that we now know what it is? Are we any clearer?
I think we're getting clearer. I don't think we understand entirely the downstream implications, the upside potential and the like, and I think it's very predictive. And no surprise, we have a tendency to a little bit more overestimate the timing of which all this comes, but we underestimate the impact. And I think 4.0 will have probably the same kind of effect.
So overall, what would be your takeaways from this year's event?
To me, it's all about how do you actually find the right people, give them the right skills and reskill them for the future, and make sure that we're actually working with them to actually solve the problems, not only for the corporates and what consumption they do or what the services they provide, but actually from a purpose perspective, help actually enable betterment in the world that we're living in.
Well, let's look ahead to next year, 2020, and of course the 23rd Global CEO Survey. What do you think it's likely to state, and will there be any fundamental changes, differences to what we've seen for 2019?
Well, I would hope that we see some changes in terms of the trade conflict issues and the policy uncertainties which are rising risks this past year. So when you look specifically at US-China and when you look at Brexit, hopefully we've actually made some progress that get people a little bit more confidence than ever before. Second, I think, is actually looking at the countries that people want to invest in. I do think there's opportunity out there. We continue to see places like India continue to rise. So I think there's a lot of upside. We just got to make sure we're more diligent in actually finding it and go and get it.
Okay, well, that's something to discuss in 2020. But Bob Moritz, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. It must have been a very busy week and a really interesting survey, worth reading. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Well, that's it from this year's World Economic Forum, and it's been an eventful few days, during which we've discussed globalization 4.0, artificial intelligence and gender equality, which leads to our final figure, 22%. That's the proportion of female attendees at the forum. Will it be higher next year? From me, Juliette Foster, goodbye, and thanks for watching PwC's Davos Daily.